So you're running out of closet space. The good news? You don't need to stop shopping. You just need to start selling with The RealReal. The RealReal is the world's largest and most trusted resource for authenticated luxury resale. Whether it's that mini bag that can't even fit your phone or those boots you never fully broke in, The RealReal handles everything from photography and copywriting to shipping and pricing. So you can just sit back, get paid, and make room for things that actually feel like you. And with 10,000 plus new arrivals every single day from top designers like Prada, Celine, Louis Vuitton, and Loewe, all for up to 90% off retail, you're bound to find something perfectly on brand to fill that extra closet space with. Plus, this May only, you can get an extra $200 to shop when you sell for the first time. Make room for what feels like you. Go to therealreal.com to start selling and get your extra $200 to keep shopping at therealreal.com. That's therealreal.com. Terms apply.
The Murder Shelf Book Club contains disturbing content related to real-life crimes. Listener discretion is advised.
Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
I've been around serial killers for years, watching them in other yards and talking to them through fences. But this was different. Now I had sustained daily access. I could study them up close, unnoticed, and I could write it all down. The outside world had no idea what they were like. But if people saw what I saw, if they heard what I heard, maybe they'd finally understand the true nature of the monsters that walk among us. From Through the Lens of a Monster, a serial killer on death row, an unsolved murder list, and an inmate's deadly play for redemption, by William A. Noguera. Welcome to the Murder Shelf Book Club podcast. I am your host, Jill. This special episode is a standout, and I say that humbly. It's not because of me. William Bill Noguera is the author of Through the Lens of a Monster, a serial killer on death row, an unsolved murder list, and an inmate's deadly play for redemption, which begins by delving into life on death row from the prism of a convicted murderer, Bill Noguera himself. Now, that is not a sentence that I speak every day, and it gave me pause when I was asked to review his book. However, a short Google search encouraged me to not judge a book by its cover, and that is really my mantra after all. This is an astonishing book. It is a brave book. Its complexity allows us to examine the mind of a serial killer. And not just one. Bill lived with them. Rarely have I ever had a better peek into the mind of a serial killer. In this case, Joseph Naso. So let me explain to you a little bit about this story. So in April 1983, Bill Noguera was 18 years old when his girlfriend's mother pressured her 16-year-old pregnant daughter to have an abortion. William had been very excited about being a father, so this decision triggered a red-hot rage in William. And in response, William and the daughter beat and strangled the mother to death. The prosecution argued that Noguera and his girlfriend were motivated by a desire to collect life insurance, and a jury of his peers convicted William of murder, sentencing him to death in the gas chamber in 1988. His girlfriend did serve time in juvenile detention. Now, it's a complicated story, and there's a lot more to it than that. But Bill Noguera recently told Oxygen, quote, "I committed a terrible crime when I was 18 years old. No justification, no excuse, but I did it. And there's nothing I can do to change that, but I can change the future. End quote. He writes in his book, Of Death Row, quote, I came from general population where violence is currency, and I learned how to spend it wisely. Now I was placed among inmates removed for their own safety. To them, I wasn't a caregiver. I was a threat. Serial killers, rapists, and pedophiles fear me most, and with good reason. They're reviled by everyone. In the prison hierarchy, they're at the bottom. Even professional hitmen get more respect. But those who kill for pleasure or prey on the vulnerable are seen as perverse and disposable. Vermin. The rules are clear. If you're in close proximity to one of these predators, you rub him out. No question, no mercy. Otherwise, you become the target. End quote. And that is what makes what Bill did all the more remarkable. Under the American with Disabilities Act, Bill was given a job of assisting disabled felons, those on death row like himself. And he came into contact with Joseph Naso, who, at 79, was convicted on August 20th, 2013, by a Marion County jury in California for the first-degree murders of 4 women: Roxine Rogash, Carmen Colon, Pamela Parsons, and Tracy Tafoya. Naso was subsequently sentenced to death on November 22nd, 2013. You may recall Naso being referred to as the alphabet killer because the first and last names of the 4 victims all began with the same letter. Now, over years of conversation with Naso, Bill gains his trust and extracts chilling confessions in which Naso claims to have killed 26 women, not just 10 from the murder list the prosecution presented at his trial. Naso boasts about his involvement in missing women and murder cases gone cold. These confessions are devastating, revealing Naso's twisted psychology as he candidly explains what drove him, a married man and father of 2, to strangle women to death. A further component of this book is Bill Noguera's quest for redemption. As Naso speaks, Bill diligently writes down all the information, intending to pass the evidence on to an investigator and help the families of these victims by providing answers about what happened to their loved ones. And William ultimately follows through on this plan. Now, recently, Oxygen released a documentary on this case, Death Row Confidential: Secrets of a Serial Killer, which I highly recommend. Now, if this hasn't ignited your interest, this will, and I'd like to introduce William Bill Noguera to the Murder Shelf Book Club podcast.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
I loved your book.
Thank you so much.
In that, I admire it. I think it was brave, and it's an intense book.
Yes, it was actually very difficult to write. I several times I had to stop. There's a part of me, call it a code that I live by, that it's, you never harm a child. And
right.
This guy did some really, really terrible things, and it was difficult to talk to him. And remember, I had to be one of his counterparts. I had to be willing to listen to him and celebrate, and how giddy he would get about talking about the murders he had committed. That was very difficult for me. And I understand that some people would say, well, William or Bill, you actually committed a crime yourself. I did. And there's a big difference between someone who has committed a crime or killed someone and someone who is a killer. There's a big difference.
Yeah, Bill, you're not a serial killer.
Absolutely not.
You had to fit yourself into that mold, which I didn't really think was humanly possible, but you pulled that off and kept him talking.
Yeah, it was intense, difficult, and it always felt like I was juggling 10 different things, because there was not only the fact that I was on a special yard for serial killers who were elderly. I was the ADA worker, the IDAP worker, which stands for American Disabilities Act, which is a special yard where people who are getting older have a nursemaid who helps them, pushes them around the yard. And I had to always remember that I came off a general population yard on death row, which is considered an affiliated yard. And what that means is the biggest gangs are out there. And I'm not talking about street gangs. Those guys are pushovers. We're talking about the Mexican Mafia, the Aryan Brotherhood, the Black Guerrilla Family, the Northern Structure. These are huge gangs that have a code that I live by myself, which is that if you see a serial killer or you run across a person who has harmed a child or committed a sexual act, you're supposed to, dispatch them. And yet I was crossing over to that yard and then returning to my yard on the weekends. I made the decision to do it because it was the right thing to do. But I had to consider so many different aspects. I didn't want to die, but I also wanted to accomplish this goal. So I talked to a guy who was the highest ranking male guy there. And I told him, he actually pulled me over and says, okay, man, you got to talk to me. What are you doing out there? I've known you for 30 some plus years and you've always been a stand-up guy. What's up with this? And I knew he was looking for the truth. Had I lied to him, he would have put a green light on me, which means they would have killed me. And, I brought a certain amount of respect to the table because of who I spent the longest time on those yards, 40 years. And I answered his question honestly. I told him, I'm trying to write a book about that serial killer. And he smiled. He said, I thought it was something along those lines. You're clear. Do what you need to do. That gave me a little bit of wiggle room, but only so much. He's one guy. In prison, there's an entire table. It's called La Mesa. And every man in there has a vote, including me. So it's 2 against 8.
Oh, my God.
And we had been able to keep them away from me so I can do my job. So I was juggling so much.
That's why I said the book is brave, but you chose this. You did not have to do this.
No, I was condemned to die. I was on death row. And later on, I started this book in 2013. It wasn't a book then. It was me getting close to a serial killer because I had been studying serial killers for nearly 30 years to that point. I understood a normal killer who does a bank robbery or burglary. I understood that because there's a bit of logic. Maybe not, he's not justified or is it right, but I understood the logic. There was no logic behind why serial killers kill. So I began to study them. And at that point, in 2013, I believed I knew enough about serial killers. I've talked to all of them. Richard Ramirez, William Bunny, the freeway killer, the scorecard killer, the toolbox killer, Carrie Stater, all of them. All the big names, Rodney Alcala, dating game killer, all of them. Very close to me. I spoke to all of them for decades. I thought I knew enough. And here comes Naso. That was a 10-year process to getting to the point where I thought I have enough for a book. But I needed a confession from him.
Yes.
And in writing.
Yes, and you got it.
I got it. But that wasn't until 2020. I didn't get that almost to the middle of 2022. And when I got it, it was under the weirdest circumstances because Joseph Naso is a psychopath. He's a sociopath. He's a serial rapist killer. And he had done so for longer than anyone that anybody knew. 1951 he started. He wasn't arrested until 2010. The only reason he stopped is because his body had given up on him. Couldn't continue. So when he came to me with the idea of going to the governor, I immediately said, hey, I know someone that plays golf with the governor. It's Walt Pavlo of Forbes magazine. He happens to be a good friend of mine. Of course, Walt does not play golf with Gavin Newsom, but I played it off. And I told him, Joseph Naso, the serial killer, look, no one's going to pay attention to you. They already have you in prison. You're already sentenced to death. They have you for 6 murders, and they're not going to pay attention to you unless you give me something in good faith. And he decided, he said, okay. Yeah. So Walt can show the governor, get his attention. They check, they confirm that it's real, and then maybe he'll come talk to you and lower your sentence on it.
You bluffed him.
Absolutely. And I did so for 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want to hear more about Naso, but you just said something that was so important, that you have talked to all of these serial killers.
Correct.
You have to be the man on the planet that knows more about the way they think. And I say they, each one is very individual. They all have their own demons and levels of evil. You did say that Naso was probably the most evil. And that blew my mind as well.
They're all bad. Some of them are lesser evil, but they're all evil. And I do mean the word evil. These men have no conscience. Joseph Naso would justify by, I need to clean the woman because she needs to be cleaned. Rodney Alcala, the dating game killer, a vicious animal. I knew them all. I spent, I like to say this, and it's not in jest or anything, but I say that I'm the Jane Goodall of serial killers. I lived with them. When law enforcement, which I respect and support, talk to a serial killer, he's in custody. The serial killer knows that he has all the answers, so he'll give them certain things for leniency, but he won't give them logic, his reasoning, what makes him tick, what are the reasons that he does these things. Mm-hmm. What I was able to do is they had nothing to lose. They were just talking, they were sharing, and according to them, I was a bigger predator than they were because I was in a general population yard. I was considered a very respected man on death row because I spoke the language, well, as good as anybody. And I've been there almost the longest, which is the language spoken on death row is the language of violence. And It is defined by how much potential you have to killing another convict. The more potential you have for that ultimate goal, the more you're respected. The most respected men are those who have killed other prisoners.
And yet you are doing this on the down low.
I am. I needed to do something to pay from the living amends. And I can only say to you that I was sentenced to death in 1988 and I was devastated. I can't tell you how it affected me. I was the youngest at that time in history to be sentenced to death. I went to a place where men had 11, 12, 15, 20 murders. And I told them I had 1 homicide. They thought I was probably a snitch. There's no way this kid can get this sentence for killing a person. And, they accepted me in prison. My reputation came up before me. And I studied every kind of killer there. I did through a psychological point of view. There's over 10,000 books in the library there. I read them all. Psychology, law. I spent decades in libraries reading and then applying it to the yard situation so I could understand killers and criminals. So yeah, I have spent more time than anyone on earth with serial killers, and I believe that I know them well enough that I could spot them and I can hunt them.
Whoa. And I think that's absolutely phenomenal. That was one of the main questions I had you studied psychology to learn how to push Naso's buttons in a way to ingratiate, I guess, yourself with him so he would trust you and open up?
I needed to isolate him and psychologically isolate him. And although I don't have a degree in psychology, I've spent enough time reading more psychology books than most PhDs. And I always say this without any kind of grain of ego. I have double PhDs from the University of San Quentin, and I graduated top of my class because the difference between myself and a psychologist or psychiatrist is that person goes home every day. He says you should do X, Y, and Z, and if you go out and kill 30 people, He goes home to his wife and his kids, or his husband and kids. The difference is, if I make a mistake, I die. The stakes are a lot higher.
Yeah, seriously. Absolutely amazing. So tell me more about, listen, I've got to stop for a minute and thank you for taking the risk, because you did not have to do this. I mean, your conscience might have driven you to do the right thing. You could have just said, no, I just want to live and not put myself at risk. You did not do that. And I acknowledge that. It's a really selfless thing you did, because you did this for the families that had the question marks.
I did. I read a newspaper article, and it wasn't to a specific victim, but a mother asked, what happened to my child? That killed me inside. And I didn't know then that it would lead to this, but I had no reason to believe that I would ever get out of prison. They sentenced me to death. I had 3 execution dates. And even when the courts ruled in my favor, which they did in 2017, and they ordered that I be released, the judge wrote a 128-page scathing opinion about the travesty of justice. And when I heard the attorney general would fight me on it, I spent another 5 years on death row, and I was devastated. I never thought I'd get out, but I did it because I do understand that there was no justification for me taking a life. And I know people will say, well, Bill, this person took your child. They took your child. I get it. But there's still no justification. I know I used that as a justification to take a life, but there is no justification. So my living amends is to help those victims' families maybe get a little bit of closure, finalization by me answering the questions, which is, what happened to their child?
And it's a gift to them. It's a gift. That question can destroy you psychologically.
It can, and I understand that question, and I understand the depth of it and how it can destroy a father or mother's whole life. And although I'm opening up old wounds by telling them what happened to their child because the serial killer told me, or I can tell them where the child is at, it's still a very delicate balancing act. When I got the information for Naso and I had the book written, I went to law enforcement, and they didn't want to talk to me. They said, well, we already have him in prison. There's no reason for us to open the case again. He's going to die. And I said, what about the victims' families? Well, I mean, we don't have the funding for that. So then I went to private investigate because I couldn't do it. I was in prison. I had the information, but I couldn't, just go out and make it public because it would put me even more at risk.
Yeah.
I talked to private investigators. They wanted $15,000, $20,000 up front. I didn't have that kind of money.
You're in prison. Of course not.
So finally, I contacted a detective, and that did come to help me. And within 48 hours, we had the first victim. We knew it was confirmed. And I knew that everything that he was telling me, like all the other serial killers, see, the distinct difference I have is my interrogation methods are that I'm considered a killer as well. So they're not hiding anything from because there's no consequence with telling me. But we know that serial killers and other people brag. Everybody brags. So I would ask him a question about, for example, Naso, the girl from Berkeley in 2014. Right. And in 2019, I'd ask him the same question. And I had the notes. And whatever he told me there, I wrote it. I wrote everything down. And if the answer matched the one he gave me 5 years ago, that's the truth.
Yes.
I knew. And I had done it with all the other ones too. And that's what I'm working on now is these other cases. There's many of them.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yes.
Oh, boy. Okay, you stumped the podcast host. I can't even imagine where this is going to go. Because I know with Naso, Alcala was accused of killing one of his victims. And you revealed that this is an error. This is not what happened to this young woman. There's a lot more there. Okay, I'm going to talk to you more about that. Go.
Yeah, it was a running joke on death row that Rodney Alcala, the dating game killer, was accused of killing a particular woman that's written all of the stories through the lens of a monster, the book that I wrote. And Naso would laugh about it. He would say, they got him for one of mine. And they hated each other because Alcala, he wrote the DA, said, that's not one of mine. He told them, if it was mine, I would tell you. It's not mine.
Yeah, he eventually confesses to those that he murdered.
Yes. Yeah, Naso was laughing about it, and I asked Naso a lot of specific questions. It's the girl from Mount Tam, or on Mount Tam, and there's two of them. Naso revealed that he had put two girls on there. He got them both from an Oakland A's game. He had passes as a press guy. So he'd walk right in. Back in the 70s, you can have a little press tag and you walk right in. He didn't look like a serial killer. In my opinion, his most devastating trait is that everybody forgot him as soon as they saw him.
Well, yeah, he blended in with the background.
Yeah, and that was the funny thing. And here is where law enforcement really made a mistake.
The GLP-1 pill you've been waiting for is now on Ro. Yep, it's finally here. With the same clinically proven ingredient, now in a pill, and now on Ro. It's the first FDA-approved GLP-1 pill for weight loss at the lowest price available. That's one daily GLP-1 pill for big results. Now on Ro. Go to ro.co/listen to see if you qualify. RX only. Go to ro.co/safety for serious side effects and boxed warning associated with GLP-1s.
Pamela Lamson told her brother when he expressed in the 70s, "You're going to go with this guy?" And her reply was this guy could be my father. And that's very interesting because Rodney Alcala looks like no one's father. Most women would find him in some ways attractive and very charming. And if she had met Alcala, this is what her answer would have been. Oh my God, he's so cute. He's not going to harm me. She didn't say that. She said, he could be my father. And who Joseph Naso looks like is everybody's father.
Yes.
And they blew it. Because even in the papers that he wrote before I became part of the case, he writes, girl on Mount Tam, Montana planet. And this is incredible because this is where the girl was found. Pamela Lamson was found posed, and I asked him specifically, why didn't you pose her?
Yeah.
And he got very upset. She couldn't stop talking about entertainment, her and a star. So I posed her like a star. And I just, you sit there and sometimes law enforcement get caught up in these MOs and signatures that the serial killer is never going to deviate from what he does normally. All the time.
Yeah, I think we're learning that now in more recent years. You used to hang on to the signature. It was done for psychological reasons and not having anything to do with the murders. And that's fine. But you don't know what the individualized interaction is between the victim and the killer. And she said something like that, and he acted. And posing her because she was bragging she wanted to be a star, blah, blah, blah. Well, I made her a star and I posed her. That makes perfect sense with him.
Yeah. And the other one was he posed another victim. He put her hands across her chest in this manner. And again, I asked him the same question like 2 or 3 times. And I said, Joe, so why did you pose her like that? And he starts to laugh. He says, you know vampires, right? I'm like, yeah. You know vampires, right? I said, yeah, I know vampires. He goes, well, vampires go to sleep with their hands across their chest like this in a coffin. I said, okay. He said, well, and this is a little bit graphic. He says, well, she sucked real good, like a vampire. So I posed her like a vampire. No one would ever think of that.
No.
Here he is telling me about it, and he's laughing because, and it was a spur of the moment thing. He did not know that prior to that date. So, yeah, people can't get caught up on these MOs and signatures they can deviate from. We've seen different killers kill children and then later on turn to women. Rodney Alcala, his first victim was an 8-year-old girl, and he tried to murder her. And luckily for the child, a good Samaritan followed them and then called the police. But he changed to women.
Yeah. You may not want to answer this, and you do not have to, but have you talked to the FBI's BAU, the Behavioral Analysis Unit?
So yes, I have. At CrimeCon, I've spoken to John Douglas, is of course the pioneer in the behavioral sciences for the FBI. And I'd like to spend some time. Could I have some information for him that's going to blow his mind?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's, let's say, he's the father of criminal profiling. He worked with Tetton and all of them. They all laid that foundation, and they've come so far with the analysis of the data. I have the greatest respect for them, but every little bit of information adds to that knowledge base that may help you with the next investigation. So if they hadn't taken them up on that, they would have gotten an email from Jill, the podcaster, who thinks you should talk to this guy.
Well, we're in the first stages. I have worked with the FBI on the Naso case. It didn't go further than that. I would like to be able to actually speak to young FBI agents who are going into the behavioral sciences, because what's written in books is great. It's a great foundation. But for it to be applied to a real case, you have to have real case experience, and they don't have it. Unfortunately, they don't have it. And I would like to fill that blank in. There's a lot of information regarding nurture versus nature. Look, let me be completely honest with you. Serial killers are savants, okay? And let me repeat that. Serial killer are savants. We notice that children at the age of 3 years old or can play a concert pianist, like a concert pianist. They play guitar. They do mathematics at a very high level. Those are kids that are, well, they're very intelligent. They may be even savants. Serial killers are born this way. They're not made. Yes, their psychology can be tweaked by circumstance, but they were already born wired to kill. It's the reason that a serial killer can sexualize the act of control, the act of killing itself. They can sexualize it. We have a lot of experts saying, well, there was no sexual intercourse, there was no sexual contact. That's completely inaccurate. A serial killer like BTK, he can actually, his first murder, he didn't have sexual penetration with the victims. He masturbated in front of the child. So they have to understand that as she was dying, because he was choking her in a noose, that he was sexualizing the act of murder. This is what these behavioral experts need to understand, that serial killers chase a rush. And we see it with more and more of these guys as they come back and they speed up. Richard Ramirez is a classic example of this. He killed in 1985 a young Asian girl who was not connected to him. He's a pedophile, but yet he starts killing people of all different races, all different genders, and it didn't matter to him. And he sped up. It was every 6 months, then every month, and every week, and then twice a night. He was chasing that high, and I asked him about that high. And his answer was affirmative. Just like with the scorecard killer, with Rodney Alcala, they all answered the question about that rush. And they said that you hit it on the head. The rush is what they chase. And I've never heard a behavioral expert talk about this.
I don't remember it put that way.
It's a rush. It's no different than the rush that a big-time surfer gets from going to a bigger wave, or a guy who skydives out of a plane and he lets the parachute gets closer and closer to the ground before he pulls the chute. It is a dopamine chemical that's released into the brain, no different than cocaine, heroin, and he gets a euphoric high. That is what the serial killers experience. Joseph Naso told me about that particular high, and they've confirmed it.
Wow. So it's an extreme sport in a sense.
In a way, it is.
The most extreme sport.
They're built for it. And you know, most of these, you see the children that they take things a little bit further than most kids, right? Serial killers, you'll see them start lighting fires maybe. Sometimes they torture animals. This isn't a set rule, but what they're doing is the equivalence of searching in a dark room blinded. They know they're different. They're trying to figure out what they are. They light fires, it kind of ignites that rush. But when they kill an animal, right away, they feel it. Then they graduate to something bigger, the rush is bigger. The risk is higher. And that's where it goes. That's how it starts. When they realize that they are killers, they embrace it. Now, they may tell you, oh, I'm really sorry about that. Believe me when I tell you, I've talked to more serial killers than anybody on earth, and not one of them has ever said to me that I believed, I'm really, my conscience is really bothering me. I got to, it doesn't. Joseph Naso would joke about it. I wouldn't harm anybody. I'm an old man. I'm no longer a killer. And he started giggling.
Yeah, they're predators. You call them apex predators?
Yes, that's what they are. Now, in prison, they're not. In prison, they are, they're vermin. They're victims because people are trying to kill them.
Well, that's why they always wind up in special circumstances and special wings. They have to be protected from everybody else because they're so loath.
Absolutely. And we've seen it happen before, right? Jeffrey Dahmer was murdered by an inmate. The 101 killer was recently murdered by another inmate because they put him in a cell with the guy, and the convict code calls for someone who has that type of case to be killed. And most of the time, guys who have life without possibility of parole to get out or death penalty will kill them just because it's part of the rules.
Well, they've got nothing to lose. You're not getting out of prison. You're on death row. You have absolutely nothing to lose by taking out one of these who are considered to be a piece of vermin. Exactly.
And it's the essence of that when I wrote the book, The Lens of a Monster, and I decided to come forward with it. I must tell you that the reason I am out is not because I wrote that book.
Yes, I know.
I didn't tell anybody I'd written the book. It actually came out after I was released. Yes.
I just think it is so amazing that you were released, that you went from 19 years old on death row, never expecting in a million years to get out, which launches you on this quest of yours, and then you wind up getting out.
Yes. So I was charged with a homicide, and they gave me a special circumstance of financial gain, meaning that I did it for insurance money, which was an absolute lie. The witness who testified against me said that because the law enforcement pressured him. They needed to arrest someone. This happened when I was 18. I was arrested when I was 19. And this kid basically said, I heard William talking about this in a restaurant, and he said it's for insurance money. That's the evidence they had. They convicted of me. And those are the facts. I'm not bitter about it because I'm healthy, I'm out. But within 8 years of that date of him testifying against me, he signed affidavits and came before a grand jury and told them, hey, I lied. Sergeant Kirby Keltner of the La Habra Police Department pressured me, and I said what he wanted me to. By that time, my case was already in the feds, and the judge that had it waited 25 years, held my case, wouldn't rule on it. And then this judge died and the case floated. By that time, it was 2017. I had already been in prison for 30 years. And another judge got the case and ordered that they release me immediately, that it was a travesty of justice, that evidence in itself proves the case was manslaughter. I should have received 7, 9, or 11, and they believe I would have gotten 9. I would have been out in 4.5 to 5 years. Instead, I got the death penalty. The Attorney General in California fought me for 5 years. Then finally, at the end, they said, give him life without the possibility of parole. Again, I'm on death row. They're giving me life without possibility of parole. My lawyers tell me, we're going to resend you to lesser sentence. Like, no, and I tell them, no. Leave me where I am. They're like, what are you talking about? They even sent a psychiatrist to go see me because they thought I was nuts. But
I thought you were nuts. I get it. I mean, I know what you were doing and I can see the outcome now, but you made them, don't move me.
Yes. Leave me on death row. I'm not done with the work I'm doing. I wouldn't tell them what it was. And 6 months after that day, I get the confession. Another 4 months pass, almost 5 months. And I call my lawyer and I know what's going on. And I say, hey, get me out of here. He's like, what's going on? I said, nothing, everything's good, just get me out of here. They took me to court and he had a deal with the judge. He told the judge, I have evidence that when you see it, you're going to be very upset. So the judge sentenced me to life without possibility of parole, and he reserved the right to call my case back within 119 days. If 120 days passes, it locks and there's no way to change it.
Okay.
So I am on death row, and here it is. Here comes yard release. I've been going to yard for 40 years every day. I'm no longer the ADA worker. And the guard says, hey, Noguera, yard. I immediately stood up. Yeah. And I stopped. And there went that antenna. It went up. And I said, no, boss, I'm good today. He goes, what do you mean? You always go out. Not today, boss. I had a feeling that the order had been given. The guy who had told me, you're good, go ahead and continue going to that yard, had been moved to another prison. The guy who took over, he and I had never liked each other. And he was politicking for 6 months trying to get me killed. The night before that, and again, this is that sixth sense, the primal instinct that all humans have when danger's about to hit them. The order was issued. Kill him.
Oh, God.
Yeah, the next day they asked me to go and I didn't go. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. I chose myself. I knew what they would have done. They would have sent 4 guys after me. One of them would have held my legs, and he was about a 300-pound guy. I know who it was. The other guy would have held my top, or at least try to tackle me enough to hold me down so 3 and 4 could come in with knives and kill me. For me to go out there and prove that I was not afraid, I would have had to attack the one guy and possibly kill him or get shots. At the end of the day, no matter what, a judge would have seen that and said, he hasn't changed. He's the same violent guy. So I chose not to. And the third day out, I'm about to leave. I can hear someone tell the guard, hey, I'm going to go talk to Noguera. And I can hear him walking. I know who it is. It's that guy. And I call him Joker in the book, but he has a different name. And he's a made guy. And he leans up against my bars and he smiles to me and he says, good choice. Don't take it personal, man. It's just business.
Just business.
And when I stood up, I told him that you're not going to take it personal when I take your head off. You know what time it is. You and me will deal with this. I never thought I was going to get out of prison. That night, they shipped me to the hole, and it's confirmed. I'm persona non grata. Everybody believes that I've turned. I haven't. I haven't testified against anybody, but they believe that I'm working with law enforcement or something. They're not sure yet what's going on. But it's enough to put a green light on me. That's what they call it. They green lighted me, meaning that they put a hit out on me to kill me.
Yeah.
And I'm transferred to Corcoran Prison, and I'm there for a very short part time. The book is finished. I've sent it to the publisher. The detective, along with Fireside Pictures and Dick Wolf, are working on the television series. So I'm gone. My job is done. I don't expect to receive a dime from it. I don't expect anything. I just did what I was supposed to do, and that was good enough for me. And then suddenly I'm called because my lawyer gave the judge those photographs. And unfortunately, it's a travesty because it was photographs of that young girl I was with who was, pregnant with our child. And she had been molested since the age of 9 by one of her parents. And the photographs were there. The judge got the photographs and he said, get Noguera here now. So they brought me to court and he just said, I'm sorry. Man, 42 years and you're still alive. He said, I apologize for that, but I also apologize because I can't let you out. And I got very upset. I said, then what the F am I doing here?
Right.
And he says, I have a very unique power, Mr. Noguera. I have the unique power of being able to strike those ridiculous special circumstances. It will reduce your sentence down to life with possibility of parole, and you've already served 42 years. You're eligible in 2000 to be let out, even with the worst sentence, and you've served an extra 25 years. Now it's up to you, but I think you're going to be okay. I'm going to reveal this to the parole board, and I'm sending you to parole immediately. Now, this is unheard of because you usually give a convict or an inmate, a prisoner, the chance of 5 years of studying, of getting ready for these courses. I went in there after 2 months, and again, first time in history, unanimous decision. All the commissioners came back, release him. Again, unfortunately for me, in the next 5 months, the governor has to sign off on it in California. He refuses to. And now he calls for an en banc, and he brings 12 of his commissioners to the parole board to decide my fate. Once again, I go in there, first time in history, unanimous. 12 of them came back, release him now. On July the 1st, 2025, I was released from prison, and I walked out a free man without a deal, without any these books or these cases helping me. I didn't reveal that to September of that year when the book finally came out, and I made it known to the public that I had been working the whole time undercover in the worst possible situation to unearth the cold case murders these serial killers had.
Wow. I don't even know what to say. It seems like a miracle to me. Because I mean, we've all seen how the justice system can screw things up. And they are on their own clock, which moves so slowly. And yet this happened. I'm gobsmacked. I'm so glad, because I think you've done a lot of good here.
It's really funny how I look at this now. It's not, I don't look at it like, I got to do something good. It's just, it's the right path. There's a path of having integrity, and there's a path of not having integrity. And I've always chosen, maybe not always rightly so, but I know what's right and wrong. And maybe my methods are extreme sometimes. Well, obviously they are. But I believe that, and I'm not a very religious person, but, I have a special relationship with my God. And I've always said this, that, God's never put a weight on my shoulders that I couldn't bear. And in this situation, it's, they say, be careful what you ask for, and I told God, I said, when this happened to me, I told him, I need strength. I need you to give me the strength to beat my enemies. And he responded, of course, by giving me a 42-year war to make me into the man I am. And I'm okay with that. I'm not bitter. I am not in any way, shape, or form angry. I'm happy. I have a second chance of life. Many people don't get a second chance, and they were completely innocent. I have an opportunity to make a difference. My book, Through a Lens of a Monster, the book I wrote before that was Escape Artist, and now I have a new one coming out this September. It's called Penitentiary of Horror, which I'm sure I'll be back to talk to you about it. And it is a whopper of a case.
I cannot wait. I'm so excited for the new book. Yes, you will absolutely be back talking to me about it when it comes out. I do not want to let you go unless you talk to me about your art. And yes. Scarlet. I want to hear about Scarlet too.
Well, we'll start off with the thing that's been part of me all my life. I'm an artist, a visual artist. If people would like to see it, they can go to my website, williamnoguera.com, and I hope you put a link to it. But my work, I started doing stippling work, and I wanted to support my family while I was in prison. I didn't want to be those guys who, asked his mother, his father, his girlfriend, his wife for money. So I supported myself in prison. I supported my family as best I could. I sent a check home every month, and it was through arts. And, it was about that at first. And then I was inspired to do more. I wanted to be known as a real artist, a legitimate artist. So I studied the visual arts. I'm an art historian. I learned every movement there was in art. And, the art world came calling. I got shows in London, Paris, the Bay Area, Los Angeles, New York. And at midstream, I changed to abstraction. And all the work can be seen. If you go to my art on williamnoguera.com, you'll see it there. Also, I have 2 Instagram pages. One of them is at Dead Body Society. The other one's at william.noguera.art. and you can see my work. The work can be purchased directly from me. I also have a website. It's on Fine Art America. Search my name, and there's prints. There's everything about my work. Art has been my lifeline. It kept me sane. It kept me grounded. It healed me.
I think it did. Absolutely. It is it's one of your gifts. You had the character to embrace it, develop it, and let it work through you.
Yes, I did. And there were several things I was tackling. One of them, the art is not merely about pretty pictures. And I must say this so the audience understands. Art for me has to have a reason. Art for the sake of art is as useless as wallpaper. So what I was doing while I was in prison is I would go to the yard and I would collect a stone or a piece of rock off the wall. I'd break it off the wall. I'd bring it back to me and make it into powder. And I would put them in these cubes. And, I could show you these cubes right here. You can see this is a cube. And they're made from the San Quentin newspaper. They have, look, my thumbprint. But inside, there is a piece of the wall of San Quentin. So my art, every piece I made, I was deliberately destroying the cage that held me. And I could argue that I was successful, wasn't I?
Yeah. Yes, you were.
I destroyed death row. And when I left death row, it collapsed. Gavin Newsom got rid of death row. The death penalty still exists in California, but there's no more death row at San Quentin. He's turned it into a rehabilitative center. Thank God, that place is a horrible place. But I believe I had a big part of that. I have to believe that because it's never been done in history. The prison is the oldest prison. It's 1852 when it first came into existence, and it collapsed after I left. So I'd like to think that I had a big part of destroying that cage that held me, and I have all the art to prove it.
Wow. That's amazing. Oh, I'm so glad I asked you about that.
And then about Scarlett's. Scarlett is my 2004 Softail Heritage motorcycle. She is black. She's beautiful. She's chromed out. She's lowered. She's what they call a Vikla. She has ape hangers, loud pipes. And she's just, I always say that she's my girlfriend and my wife.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little thrill here, just envisioning you on the bike going, and you are free to go where you want to go.
That was one of the biggest things that shocked me when I got out. So I'll say this. I did a lot of exercises when I was in prison. I was in very good physical shape, and I would run. When I was at Corcoran Prison, I would run 748 paces, turn left. 245 paces, turn left. 748 paces, turn left. So I had that memorized. The most shocking thing to me when I got out, I went running in the hills of Corona, California. And when I hit the 700, because there's a mine count, 748, I was about to turn and I could go through. It was the most liberating. It was emotional. I was no longer in prison.
Yeah. Not even in your mind.
Not even in my mind. And it's the equivalent of always swimming in a swimming pool and something throws you out in the ocean. You're 6 miles out and there is no bottom. And the possibilities are endless.
That's exactly right. Oh my God. Bill, thank you so much. This has been absolutely amazing. I stand in awe. I love what you have done now with your life. You've made it your own. And again, the choices are endless.
They are. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on the show and talk to you. I love your audience, and I hope that they enjoy the book and that they understand what it took to get that book. And there's much more to come. And I can only graciously ask to be brought back on. I would love to do your podcast.
We'll wind down here and we will set a date right now. Because I'm just absolutely thrilled to support you. I think that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, murder bookies, true crime book lovers, you have found your perfect summer read. If you are a book club, make sure to add this title to your roster. Through the Lens of a Monster, a serial killer on death row, an unsolved murder list, and an inmate's deadly play for redemption by Bill Noguera. What a fascinating discussion. Now, I believe in redemption and that people can change. And Bill Noguera, he has completely changed his life. He is a talented artist, and I have links to his work where you can see them for yourself on my blog at www.murdershelfbookclub.com, June 2026. Please take a look. His first book was Escape Artist, memoir of a visionary artist on death row, and his new book coming out in the fall will be Penitentiary of Horror. I cannot wait to talk to him about this. What an amazing story. Now, the next book I will be featuring on my podcast is Killer in the House, 10 Days of Terror in a Pennsylvania Suburb by Catherine Kahneman. This is a story about the murder of 6 people living in a Philadelphia suburb, not far from where I reside, but this is back in 1976. It is a tale that many remember vividly. Whenever the case arises in conversation, they recall the dates, who was involved, and every detail surrounding the events. I think that for most of us, coming home is usually associated with normalcy, if not warmth and safety. However, when Jack and Peggy Act, their children, and a friend returned to their home, they had no idea they were facing an immediate grave danger. Catherine Kahneman was a young news reporter in 1976, and her unique perspective on the crime and the investigation adds depth to the story, which spans 50 years. She ensures that her readers understand who the victims are, their lives, and the dynamic that was abruptly ended. This is another amazing book, and my next episode on Killer in the House will be out soon. Thank you for listening. I see you as you hear me. I truly appreciate you joining me in this journey, and I am foreseeing a summer of reading, recording, and producing the best trilogies on best true crime books for you to enjoy. If you do, please share it and leave a positive 5-star review. My sources, photographs, and other information are on my blog at www.murdershelfbookclub.com, June 2026. You can contact me at murdershelfbookclub.com or connect with me on X, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And you can join my Patreon group for free or $2 a month. And if you really love me, $4 a month. Thank you so much, Murder Bookies. I can't wait for the next episode to drop. Written and produced by Jill, all rights reserved. Music, The Pewter Elephant by Blue Dot Sessions.
You know that music? That's the sound of shopping for car insurance the old way. Life's too short for that. Jerry makes car insurance easier. Open the app, answer a few questions, and Jerry pulls up to 20 quotes from top insurers. Then choose and switch right in the app. No re-entering your information. No saxophone solos. And Jerry keeps checking rates for you. So you're not back on hold 6 months from now. Visit jerry.ai/Libsyn today.